Hello.
Hello.
I couldn't remember if we were resuming this month or not.
Um,
Take
I
it.
think so.
Yeah, I can never. My calendar is always goofy. I shoot up to the last one, then I remembered that, yeah, it was off. So,
Yeah, because well, it's still August, to be fair.
yeah.
So now that you say doubt comes to me, let's see if I um wrote anything down about that somewhere. Mm, mm, mm. Well, I guess we said let's take August off for meetings. So technically speaking, still August.
I don't have
Uh,
much. Spinnaker's steadily
but
progressing, so,
yeah, um, yeah, I guess we didn't send a cancellation though, so maybe I'll wait another minute or two to see if other folks are joining. If not, cancel it. Sorry, it wasn't.
all good. All good. I'm just
Did you
doing
have any? Oh, yeah, okay.
PR reviews. We keep finding bugs with a retrofit migration, and we're pushing out new releases in Spinnaker regularly, trying to play whack-a-mole on the bugs we find. Um, so it's a lot of, okay, we fix this, then we fix the next thing. Hey, I'll be right back. I got a call I need to take real quick.
Yeah, no worries.
Back. Not that I said there's a huge amount to discuss, I don't think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Anyways, so yeah, on Tecton side, we, as previously announced, the CDF is cutting funding for the infra end of September.
mhm.
But we get credits for the Oracle Cloud. So I'm having fun with Terraform and reprovisioning stuff from moving it across from GCP to Oracle Cloud.
Okay.
But yeah, I think yeah, I've done a good chunk of like setting all the infrastructure, starting migrating services. So it's looking good.
Very good. Um, what all are we running to actually support the infrastructure? Like, what
So,
infrastructure is the CD Foundation using?
um, I mean, there's no single, I mean, it's per project, right?
Hmm.
Every project is used different things. So for Tecton, well, basically you need Kubernetes cluster. We're using still Brow for some of the services, like merge queue and so forth. We've been migrating a lot of the CI jobs to GitHub Actions to save on costs.
Mhm.
And we still use Tecton to like release Tecton. So we
Mhm.
have Tecton chains to sign releases and so forth. Right now that runs in a Kubernetes cluster, so I'm setting that up on OCI. Yeah, we might run eventually that into a GitHub Actions, but it's also nice for us to have like a long running Tecton cluster where we do upgrades. Every time we make a new release, we upgrade to the new release and we migrate existing resources and we see that things continue running smoothly. So
We talked about trying to get some of that for Spinnaker, but given the funding issues, the problem right now with Spinnaker is the open source doesn't have any of that.
yeah,
So we're really dependent, like Apple does their PRs and their internal tests, but it's all internal and they only occasionally contribute some of that up. Uh,
okay, I see.
so that's why like some of our releases in Spinnaker have been so broken is because like Armory, which I'm running the team at Harness, that's the remainder of Armory. We are just now starting to pull those latest changes into the Armory, which then runs the Armory integration tests. And we've got a list of now things that we've identified in the open source that are broken. So it's that
I see. Hmm.
dichotomy of,
Yeah,
how do you pay for that infrastructure? How do you get some of that stuff into open source kind of thing?
yeah, that's hard. I mean, usually you pay through um I guess memberships and then you get like budget for the infra. But for Tecton, because we apply to CNCF, the project applies to CNCF. Um, so the budget is not there anymore, basically. And the
Yeah.
CNCF, they have these OCI credits, so they made some deal with Oracle Cloud. And so they're provisionally offering the project access to those credits. And then if the project moves on to become a CNCF project, it will continue like that. If not, I guess we'll have to skip cloud again or something.
And it's I've been thinking about this a little bit, particularly with the Spinnaker community, because the contributions have dropped drastically over the last 3 years when Netflix basically all in-house on stuff and went a different direction, and then Google pulled out, and
Hmm.
AWS isn't contributing. So really, the core contributors are Apple, my team, and Salesforce, and it's been struggling from a community perspective, and that's one of those. Like I remember that was also when Weaveworks and Flux sort of went under, and I've been seeing that a lot more in the open source community of how do you back some of these projects in such a way that keeps them running and alive. And I don't know that I have a good answer. It's just one that I think about.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we started doing with Michelle and Kate was like trying to create a map of like end users for the different projects.
Hmm.
And I guess the idea is to, try and reach out to those end users as like potential members for the foundation
Hmm.
or potential supporter of the project in terms of maintainership, because maybe well, the companies are heavily invested, but they don't look at what's happening in open source, and so they don't realize if they don't somehow contribute back something, the project is at risk of just
Fine.
going away, and then you have to pay a lot of money to migrate off that and do something different.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the only answer I can have. But even doing that, it takes time and effort and investment. So it's
Hmm. Well, I do know Wise has hired one of the core contributors who's actually now contributing some of Wise's internal fork of the project up. But I know a couple other companies that have forked it internally who just don't do that. And
mm,
unfortunately, Spinnaker is one of those big enterprise products. Like I know Airbnb, last I heard, still uses it, and they've actually got some public repos they've demonstrated with an MCP server that
okay.
Spinnaker. but they don't contribute anything to Spinnaker core. It's all in Airbnb's fork. So
Yeah, that's a shame.
we've been struggling a little bit with that. And I hear of other companies who've also, like Salesforce had a big fork. They're pushing up their changes. Of course, their changes tend to break open source sometimes, and that's that balance. So
Mm.
it's always a challenge in the open source world. So I don't know. That's why I
Yeah,
started mentioning it, asking curiosity how you've worked around some of it.
yeah, and I think it's especially a challenge in the CI/CD space because yeah, companies are not necessarily keen on investing a lot on that. Should be, it's often considered like a solved issue, and it's like, okay, we don't want to get ongoing investing on that space. It's more likely to invest in AI nowadays and
Yeah.
NCPs and so forth. And but yeah, like you mentioned NCP, for instance, for Tecton, we started an NCP project, and that was a way for some of the maintainers on the Red Hat side to help saying, okay, well, we continue doing Tecton upstream work. We do this NCP project for Tecton, and we also do other stuff for the community. So it's a way to keep
Yeah.
up the. But I guess on Red Hat side, being like upstream first company, at least it's easier to do those kind of things.
Yeah. When Armory was more commercially viable, we were getting a lot more of that activity. It was one of the core sort of projects, but when the company pretty much went under, Harness bought them out, and Harness, honestly, I have no idea how long Harness will continue to be part of it. I
Mhm.
push as much as I can on that side of the company, but they have a competing product in essence to a lot of these. So there's that sort of how much do they participate in open source versus not? And I see that same conversation in a couple other big companies. They do an open source of their own. Like, there's a harness core that is an open source CD tool now and code and other
Okay.
pieces. Uh, but they're not part of any foundation. It's just something that Harness has, they're part of the CD Foundation, but it's almost like they don't really care about the foundation or being good open source stewards at times. So it's
Yeah.
unless we can show a company there's revenue value in being a good participant, it's hard for them to spend the money on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I mean, for something like Artist Core, if they wanted to build a community of people not outside of the company contributing to it, then I guess joining the foundation, joining the project into the foundation can help. You get like marketing services, you get like spaces and conferences to present your stuff and so forth, and you can get also a little shift in how things are perceived by potential contributors. If
Mhm.
you have a project that is hosted under a company GitHub and is not part of any foundation, there's no like neutral space for contributors to contribute to it. I mean, if they're hosted under yeah, so if they're hosted under a foundation, it gives a little bit it makes it, I think, a bit more attractive for potential contributors to join. But
Yeah,
it yeah.
it does. Unfortunately, what I've seen is and it actually came up in one of the Linux conversations who actually contributes to the Linux kernel, and it's not anybody in the open source, it's vendors doing the contributions,
Mhm.
particularly on very vendor specific areas. Unfortunately, it's a weird mix of, okay, there's not a generic, open source code tool. Like GitLab is the closest open source, code tool as an example, but how much contributions come from outside? HashiCorp is a perfect example where, to be blunt, IBM bought it out, but when HashiCorp changed their licensing, Tofu is now eating it alive. It's one of the few tools that I've seen actually succeed commercially in an open source space on some of that. So CD is a little weird on this aspect. Like I'd hoped Spinnaker would be the CD tool, and it just didn't materialize in that same sort of sense. To be clear, at least some of that was a failure on part of the Spinnaker community to allow it to be more easily adopted or extended in such a way that commercial entities could make use of it the same way people can make use of the Linux kernel. Um, that's just my reaction based upon 5 years of the community.
So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I don't know. It's for Tecton when we started the project, also the aim was to kind of become the de facto CI tool on top of for Kubernetes users, at least, on top of Kubernetes. And yeah, it is. I mean, it has quite a lot of adoption, especially through the OpenShift platform, but also other non-OpenShift users. But still, yeah, it's not the de facto. And I mean, for sure, GitHub took a lot of the market share with GitHub Actions and everything. So but yeah,
Just it's an interesting market to be in. Is if you're a big open source proponent and foundation, how do you do that juggle? So I know I'm just sort of randomly talking here versus any particular topic. It's just one I've been thinking about, particularly because the Spinnaker project as a whole and the TOC on the Spinnaker has been discussing, like, how do we keep the project alive? How do we let people know it's still alive? What is the direction of the project? All of those kinds of questions. And um, it's more philosophical questions at this point versus anything pragmatic.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, those are very good questions. Yeah, as I said, this a CDF, I think the only initiative we started recently was like this to go through like end users and see if there was any way to reach out to end users and get people more involved into
Mhm.
the foundation, or yeah, better understanding what the benefits of being part of the foundation are, and yeah, those kind of
Yeah,
conversations.
understood.
Yeah, well, I don't have a silver bullet that
There doesn't seem to
works.
be a silver bullet.
Yeah,
It'd be nice if there was. Here's
yeah.
the answer. Everybody go do this. Right? Hmm. Well, how's CD events stuff going? I don't hear a lot of stuff around it right now.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I think it's um, still, it's slow pace, but it's picking up. We've got like a few people, reaching out to the community or opening issues. I mean, you count them on two hands. It's not like big group of people, but at least you see like people noticing that the project, and Apple is still pushing a lot for that.
Hmm.
Um, so they're starting this new project. It's like an orchestration around CD events. And yeah, so I mean, we still have like Fidelity is using it in production, and Apple is aiming to do that.
Yeah.
And there is one of the contributors to the project who is just started his own company on some open source project he built around CD events to kind of collect and visualize and CD events and bring value for CD events observability.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's not like exploding or anything, but I think it's slowly
Getting some work going.
getting somewhere. So, um, yeah. Um, but yeah, let's see. I have less and less time myself to look into it, but yeah, as I said, there is folks from Apple, there's contributor, David, who started his own company around it. So um, there is some good motivation.
I actually looked, and I don't remember which company it was. I talked with it about 3, 4, I want to say it was 3 or 4 years ago, getting into Spinnaker. We added some of the various libraries and integrations. And the biggest challenge I had that point was it was mixing data definition as well as the transport mechanism in the same sort of flows, and trying to
Okay.
break those conceptually apart, where like CD events could be sent through a RabbitMQ broker or Knative or whatever the platform for transport was. But the key piece was really the data definition and the contents
Hmm.
payload versus how it gets to where it gets kind of concepts. Um, I
Yeah,
remember,
that's pretty much. Yeah.
hmm,
No,
yeah,
that's pretty much the idea, right?
yeah, it was teams that I interacted with had a very big struggle with understanding that those were two separate things.
Okay.
Like they
Interesting.
couldn't separate Knative from CD events, and I'm like, no, it's two separate things. You have the data format. That's really the key piece. You got to
Mm,
figure out how to separate that from where the destination is on the back end of it, because there could be multiple transport implementations.
yeah.
So, um, I don't know. It was an interesting conversation of people struggle to separate certain things in their minds on some of these platforms.
Oh, I see. Is it like you think is it like a abstraction type of issue, or is it they don't they struggle to separate or to identify the value in separating the two things?
Um, so I think it was they didn't understand some of what the problem was. Like, okay, I remember I set up a very simple, here's a webhook example that formats a payload into a CD event structure. Matter of fact,
Mhm.
let me see if I can find a reference example of it. And I'm just sort of here. I wrote this code for them, and this is all in my public repo. Where, okay, here's a very simple Knative example implementation that is a conceptual CD artifact, CE type, where it could take a
Mhm.
payload and just generate a very simple CD event kind of thing. And that was independent of the broker and trying to explain to them this could have been a RabbitMQ post. This payload was the key, and then trying to separate those two concepts. They didn't seem to understand that the events broker was not really CD events, it was just a Knative broker. Um,
Okay. Mm.
and it was they were so tightly coupled in their mind that the two were together that they lost the aspect of what CD events really was trying to accomplish, which was a generic data model of how CI/CD stuff works conceptually.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
It's the same problem I get a lot today, even where people tend to couple payload with the platform. Uh,
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
a challenge. It's sometimes that's technical, sometimes that's conceptual on some of those. Um, but my background, I was in Rabbit and QLAN for a very, very, very long while. So,
Oh, okay.
like I used to know Simon McMullen and some of the others who worked on RabbitMQ, and I actually maintained the ESL Erlang compatibility library for that project. So that was a long time ago, though.
Cool. Erlang, so you can do Erlang like programming or
I was doing a little bit of it, and then I'm like, not my area. I'm Java. I've been doing Java since 1.1.7, so I stick with Java.
okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Um, I liked the
All
concepts
right.
of Erlang. I just didn't like the language structure.
Mhm.
But
I-
Hmm. Well, I'm happy to sit here and talk if you want to talk about any other random tech topic, CD or CI or otherwise. Uh, but you know,
yeah,
I'll
yeah, okay.
kind of.
Yeah, no, I think it was great chatting. But yeah, maybe we can uh close for today. Looks like no one else is joining for sure at this stage.
And
But yeah.
I wasn't sure whether it was, so I went ahead and joined because I think sometimes there's not enough generic thought processes around CD in general, and that's kind of why I'm even here. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
but well, maybe next meeting then.
Yeah. All right.
Have a good day.
You too. Thanks, Jason. Bye.